Once again, I am recording an episode in a completely different location, but nonetheless, what is going on, Devils fans? It is always your host, your best friend, your confidant, your number one source, Neil Villapiano, and welcome to another edition of the Devil's State of Mind podcast right here on the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as SportsWire Radio, the best place to get everything you need to know about your New Jersey Devils. And as always, Devils fans, I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you're checking out this podcast episode. Thank you guys, as always, for taking time out of your day to check these episodes out. You guys already know that I greatly appreciate all the support you guys give me, whether you're here on YouTube or if you're over wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every little bit is very much appreciated. And really quickly, shout out to our sponsors over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Guys, they got a really awesome offer right now. You bet $5 when you sign up using our promo code THPN. You bet $5 at least. You get $300 instantly in risk-free bets. Again, just $5, you get $300 in risk-free bets. And you also get several $100s off NFL Red Zone and so much more as well, courtesy of YouTube and YouTube TV. Guys, this is the absolute perfect time to get in on it with the NFL season fully underway, college football as well, and of course, we have the NHL season getting ready right around the corner. We're exactly at the time of this recording, a month away from the Devils' home opener, and we are currently 23 days away at the time of this recording from the Devils' first regular season game. So, guys, we're right there. And DraftKings Sportsbook is a great place to get in on all the huge cash prizes. Again, all you got to do is sign up, use our promo code THPN. You get $5 and you get $300 instantly in risk-free bets. It's that simple. So shout out to DraftKings Sportsbook. And as always, Devils fans, make sure to bet responsibly. So yeah, again, new location, but it's actually one that you guys grew accustomed to seeing. I'm back in my childhood home. I do apologize if there is an echo. I'm also not using my normal microphone. I'm using the built-in microphone from my laptop, mainly because we don't really have the world's strongest connection, and I'm using something called Easy Tether to get any sort of internet connection to do this. So I do appreciate you guys being sensitive to that and understanding. As I was telling you guys, I'm going to do my best to continue to get you guys out episodes and the best coverage I can during this difficult time as I continue to get through this moving process, which has been very, very frustrating. But I know that at some point it's gonna all even out, and we're gonna have a much more consistent background here. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing in here, right now. So do apologize for the echo. Nonetheless, here on our episode today, we're gonna recap the Devils Prospects Challenge, and there was a lot to get to. There was a lot to talk about, a lot of positives, a lot of things that really stood out, and a couple of players in particular really stood out to me. We're also going to talk about, and I know it's going to be a sensitive topic for many, but we're going to talk about the NHL's decision with the 5 players in the Hockey Canada investigation that includes 2 former New Jersey Devils players. And then lastly, unless something changes in the middle of me recording this, I'm going to give you the latest that we have here on Luke Hughes, because again, at the time of this recording, we are less than 24 hours away from the start of training camp. And as of right now, again, unless something changes, he is still yet to be signed. So that's what we got for you today. So as always, Devils fans, we have a bunch to get to here on the Devil's State of Mind podcast. So let's not waste any more time and get rolling. And we will get rolling and drop the puck with, again, just mentioned moments ago, going to talk about the Devils Prospects Challenge. So first and foremost, they had a very strong challenge overall. They went 2-1-0. They won their first 2 games and then lost 6-4 in the final against the Boston Bruins. And I'll kind of bring it down here. So they started off with a dominant 8-2 win against Columbus last Thursday, then won on Friday night 4-2 against the host Buffalo Sabres. And as mentioned, they lost 6-4 in the final game that they played on Sunday afternoon. So the Devils certainly did not lack goals. And that was kind of one of the things that was really fun, because this was truly the first time that we got to see any kind of Devils hockey. And I recognize that obviously these games don't matter to a lot of people, but for these guys, especially the prospects and even some that get invited, every little bit matters. An opportunity to continue to showcase yourself to the organization and also for some throughout the entire league. And there were four guys to me that really, really stood out for the Devils. Three of them are actually Devils prospects, and one of them was actually only a Prospects Challenge invitee. So it was kind of interesting here, and we'll get to him in just a minute. But let's start first with one of the more talked about prospects, especially over the last couple of days. That is Shane Lachance. The Devils acquired earlier this past year from the Edmonton Oilers. And guys, having this guy who is 6'5", well over 200 pounds, is physical, shows a lot of leadership, not afraid to get into the dirty areas. I think the Devils have found a really, really big kind of gem here, because Shane Lachance had a very strong challenge. He had 2 goals, 1 assist. He could have had 3, but one of them was disallowed on I think goalie interference, was it? But he was noticeable in all 3 games. And this is a guy that I definitely am going to keep my eye on once training camp gets underway and see how he competes with the veterans. And also, even when he gets into some preseason action, he's gotten off to a good start here, and it'll be really interesting to see what he can do here and how much attention he's going to attract from Sheldon Keefe and co. I'm sure they already are aware of his performances in this tournament. And so I'm really excited about what he can potentially bring, especially as a guy that I think most likely is going to end up being a 3rd, 4th line kind of guy. But this guy does have a knack for getting in front of the net and creating traffic, which is huge. He's a big body presence, likes to be physical, also not afraid to stand up for his team. Particularly, we saw that in the dominant win over the Columbus Blue Jackets, where there was 4 or 5 different fights. Shane Lachance got in there and stood up for his teammates. I mean, this is the kind of guy that a lot of Devils fans are certainly really, really hoping could be a guy that in the long term is essential to this Devils team in terms of, being more physical and having a guy that's not afraid to stand up and stick up for his teammates. Because I know that there's Devils fans clamoring for this. So yeah, Shane Lachance really, really impressed me. Another guy that, again, is going to have some big, eyes on him going into training camp is Lenny Haminaho. He got off to a little bit of a slow start in the first game, but I think overall he really showed his skill set. He has some really tremendous just hockey IQ. Definitely has a nose for the goal, which we saw over in Europe, and we saw a bunch in the Prospects Challenge. He also played extremely, extremely well on that top line with Shane Lachance. And this is a guy that some Devils fans look at that maybe he could be that surprise guy in training camp that really steps up and finds a way to crack that roster, which is going to be tough, but nonetheless, never say no. And if this is a guy that could come in and give us more of that depth scoring that we're looking for, and even potentially maybe a top 6 guy long-term, that is fantastic. So Lenny Haminaho, definitely a strong challenge and a good way to kind of get himself ready for training camp starting tomorrow. Now, another guy that came up that the Devils drafted in the 6th round of the 2024 NHL entry draft, and if I butcher his name, I do apologize, but it's Matthias Metlovsky, who really, really kind of surprised a lot of us in terms of his overall abilities. Just like Shane Lachance, 2 goals, 1 assist, had a really, really nice individual rush for one of his goals in the game against the Boston Bruins over on Sunday. Showed a lot of really impressive stick handling ability and has a sneaky good shot as well. And he's a very, very young guy that we're not going to see a whole lot. I'm not sure if he's going to be on the training camp roster. We'll have to wait and see tomorrow. But nonetheless, I thought his speed and his stick handling ability were the 2 things that really stood out the most. And I really, really liked what I saw. So that was another guy that I was definitely more surprised about, a guy that maybe a lot of Devils fans may not know, but he certainly showed himself, and a lot of people know who he is now after that very strong performance, 100%. Now, let's get to, without question, the most surprising player for the Devils in this prospects challenge. And I say that because he is not even a Devils prospect. He was invited by the Devils to be on the team for this prospects challenge to give himself an opportunity to showcase his ability and try to earn a contract either with the Devils or with someone else. And that is Nathan Lecomte, who currently is playing over in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. He went undrafted last year, and he came out of nowhere. He literally came out of nowhere. He had a phenomenal tournament. He finished with 4 goals and 5 points, including a 3-point game in the second game against the Buffalo Sabres. He showed so many flashes of being a really solid and really talented goal scorer. He brought some speed as well, which I think is certainly necessary. And I was completely blown away, as I think everybody was, in saying, who is this kid? Where did he come from? Well, a lot of us know him now. And for Nathan Lecomte, this definitely has to give him confidence in the hope that somebody's going to take a look at him. And maybe even the Devils look at this and say, you know what? I think we got to give this kid an opportunity here and maybe sign him to a contract. We'll have to wait and see. Nothing has really happened over the last couple of days since the tournament ended, but nonetheless, really liked what I saw from him, and a guy that maybe could be a sneaky good pickup that down the road becomes somebody that we didn't expect a whole lot of, but becomes a really big valuable part to this team long term. So got to give your stick taps to Nathan Lecomte, man. He played really well. And even if he doesn't join the Devils and sign the contract, I hope he does get an opportunity to play with somebody in the NHL, signs a contract with them, because I think that he really earned it and he really showcased, and he was one of the better, if not potentially the best player of anybody in this prospects challenge overall. So really liked what I saw from him. And those were the guys that really stood out to me from the prospects challenge. Again, 3 of them are a part of the New Jersey Devils prospects pool, and one of them, again, Nathan Lecomte, is not. And those are the guys that really, I thought, played well. And that gives you confidence if you're a Devils fan. It's got to give you confidence that, you know what, we have some guys in the system that maybe not too far down the road could really give this team an opportunity to have that much more depth long term, especially when you have this core lockdown that the Devils have. It's important to have these pieces that you can bring up. It's not always about getting guys via free agency or trade. Sometimes you got to get some guys from, where you drafted them and you develop them and they come through the system. It's very important as well. And that helps you continue to stay competitive and continue to be a contender for longer periods of time. So those were the guys that really stood out. And overall, I think it was a successful prospects challenge. And now we shift to the next part, the big one, and that is training camp, which kicks off again less than 24 hours from now. Now, I'm going to get into the sensitive topic that I mentioned before, and that is talking about the NHL's decision when it comes to the 5 players that were involved in the Hockey Canada situation. I'll call it that. Let's call it that. And that is involving also, again, 2 former New Jersey Devils in it. So, according to the NHL, they made this announcement earlier at the end of last week, actually, towards the end of last week, that Carter Hart, Alex Fermenton, former New Jersey Devil Cal Foote, also former New Jersey Devil Michael McLeod, and Dylan Dubé are unrestricted free agents and will be allowed to come back into the NHL and can sign with an NHL team on October 15th, so a little less than a month from now. However, they are not allowed to play in an NHL regular season game until December 1st. So they can sign with the team, be a part of the team, practice with them, even go down and play in the AHL for the time being, but they are not allowed to play in a regular season game for an NHL team until December 1st. So by the time any of these players who get a chance to come back and play, by the time that they will get back and play, it will be nearly 2 years since the last time they played in an NHL game. Now, as far as I remember, Alex Fermenton was the only one that wasn't currently in the NHL when this happened. He was playing overseas. I also think that it's more likely that Dylan Dubé will probably end up playing overseas as well. Cal Foot, not really sure. But the two guys I think have the highest chance of probably getting back with an NHL team is Michael McLeod and Carter Hart. And I want to talk really quickly about this because, in case you don't know, I'm one of the co-hosts of Flamescast, also here on the Hockey Podcast Network that covers the Calgary Flames. Go check it out if you haven't already. And my co-host, Kyle Manifold, we talked about this at length on Monday of this week. And I'm going to kind of shorten it a little bit more here because I know how sensitive and uncomfortable this topic is for a lot of people. To put it very simply, nobody, and I mean nobody, comes out of this whole trial and the verdict as a winner. Yes, the players do get an opportunity to come back in the league, but they've also lost 2 years. And, Father Time wins out all the time, right? So we don't know how good or not good these players are really going to be once they get on a team, if and when they do. I think it's most likely at least Carter Hart gets on a team. We'll see about the others, and maybe Michael McLeod as well. I don't know. But the one thing I'll say is this, like, the players don't win in this situation. EM doesn't win in this situation. It's just something that is incredibly unfortunate that it happened. Incredibly unfortunate. And at the end of the day, the people involved made very, very stupid decisions as young people. But young people do that all the time. It's a very unfortunate thing. So that's why I'm trying to be careful with what I say. And I understand if it ruffles some feathers. At the end of the day, the players are legally not guilty in the eyes of the law, and they are certainly allowed to come back into the league according to the NHL. The NHL, they could have just said no, regardless of the verdict, but this is what they chose. And whomever decides to bring in any of these players, they better be prepared for what's going to come. The backlash from fans, particularly of the female side, and also the overall just expectations of what this player could or could not do. It's just kind of like we don't know how much they can contribute. Carter Hart is probably the most likely person that could still have some value here, even at his age and even having not played for 2 years. But nonetheless, this is a very difficult situation to be in. Do I expect the Devils to be involved with any of these 5 players? I really don't know. I do believe, though, because obviously the Devils have a relationship with Michael McLeod and Cal Foot. Maybe it's something that has been discussed before. Maybe it hasn't been. Maybe the Devils are not even thinking about it. Who knows? But again, none of these guys can even sign with a team for another month. So we're not going to hear a whole lot about any of these guys until we get closer to that day. And once we get to that day and beyond it, we'll see how things go. But the bottom line is simply that this is a very, very tricky situation where nobody really wins at all in this situation. It's going to have reactions all over the place. And I guess the only thing we can do is really just see where things go, right? So I just wanted to bring that up because obviously I think it's important and something that even not from the Devils' perspective, just in the NHL, is something that a lot of these guys are going to think of, we're going to keep our eyes on and think about going into this upcoming year. So all we can say is we shall see. This episode of the Devil's State of Mind podcast is sponsored by our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Game on. Week 1 starts now. And every touchdown, you're closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the National Football League. This isn't just football. It's first touchdown fireworks, any TD rushes, and live bets that ride every momentum shift. At DraftKings, every play is your next shot to win. New customers, this one's for you, my friends. Bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, grab over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. $5, that's all you got to put down. You get $300 instantly in risk free bets. Your season starts now, and all you have to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first bet of $5 or more, plus over $200 of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. And lastly here, shift back to the Devils specifically. Once again, I do have to bring up Luke Hughes. And unfortunately, I don't have any sort of breaking news or anything like that. I'm just going to check my phone real quickly. Do I have anything? No, I do not have anything currently. And it is 4:30 p.m. Eastern at the time of this recording that I'm looking at this. I wanted to wait a little bit for to record this only because in case there was something that would come up. That was kind of the thing I was hoping for. But currently there's nothing, no breaking news, but this is where we are. As of today, there is no signing. And tomorrow is the start of training camp. And I don't know where we're at. We don't have anything that we can really hang our hat on. There are signs, though, that both sides have made some good progress over the last couple of days, and they're towards the finish line here. But, it's still not a guarantee that Luke Hughes will have a new contract before tomorrow's start of training camp, which I don't think anybody wants to do. I really don't see how both sides are going to be comfortable with Luke Hughes not being able to report for day one of training camp. Yes, Dawson Mercer, we just went through this last year. He signed a day after training camp started, but still, he ended up having a tough year. And everybody says, well, what's one day of training camp? It could really mean everything, honestly. I don't think Luke Hughes wants to miss any time to get going here, get the chemistry rolling, and get ready for this long and much anticipated season for this Devils team. So really, it's just kind of a difficult thing here. And that's all we really have right now. That's all we really have with it here. And signs of, again, as I mentioned, there's a lot of progress here. And again, training camp does begin Wednesday. So yeah, I don't really have a whole lot for you guys. The only thing I can really say is that I think it's going to either be a short-term bridge deal of 2 to 3 years or a long-term deal. I don't think that 5-year deal that people were talking about, and I told you guys ad nauseum before that was just an idea and not really a concrete thing. I don't see that happening. So I think it's either a short-term deal where the Devils will still have his RFA rights after 2 or 3 years, or they sign him to a long-term deal. But again, as I mentioned before, the bottom line is simply that Luke Hughes is going to be a Devil, and he's going to be a Devil beyond this 25-26 season. I think people are forgetting that when they look at this situation. And yes, it is incredibly frustrating. I'm frustrated. I want it to be done. I want this to stop being something to talk about. I wanted him signed so that we can move on to training camp and we can just focus on that and go from there. So that's what I'm really kind of hoping for. And at some point, it's going to get done. I think that's the big thing to keep in mind, as always, is that at some point, it's going to get done. It's just obviously not happening at the pace. I mean, look, Tom Fitzgerald said back in July that Luke Hughes was his number one priority, and now it's September 16th, and his number one priority is still not signed. And there's a lot of things that could be the biggest reason or biggest reasons, plural, why this hasn't happened yet. And only time will tell, right? So that's the latest that we have on Luke Hughes at the time of this recording at 4:36 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025, on the eve of Devils training camp. And who knows, maybe by the time this episode comes out, maybe this will evolve, maybe, this will happen. But we shall wait and see. Lastly here, more positive news. Other than the fact that training camp starts by the end of this week, we will have our first preseason game. The Devils start off the preseason at home at The Rock this Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern against the New York Rangers. And so we will finally get to see some preseason hockey in 5 days, and I'm very excited for that. But I also want to do a little bit of a programming kind of update for you. Once again, I will be in a different location. If I'm able to get an episode out, I'm going to be flying to California, going to be spending a day or two there on vacation, and then going to Vegas for the rest of the week next week. Going to check out the Golden Knights in a preseason game in the middle of next week, I think on Thursday of next week, if I'm sure. And then next Saturday, so not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, I will be flying back here to New Jersey. So if I don't get an episode out next week, it'll be the following week that you'll get a new episode. So just giving you guys that heads up. So on that note, that's going to do it for this episode of the Devil State of Mind podcast. Thank you guys, as always, for taking time to check it out. Really, really do appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and tell all of your friends to subscribe as well, as we are getting close to 200 subscribers. I think we're at 156 or 157, so a little more than 40 away. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit like this video and tell all of your friends to subscribe as well. Really does help out the podcast. And also subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all of those places, and on Apple and Spotify. Do me a favor and leave a 5-star rating on either one of those. Helps out the podcast tremendously. And in the top right corner here on YouTube, if you see it, you can follow the Devil State of Mind podcast on social media at Devil State of Mind on both Facebook and Instagram, and Devil State over on Twitter. Follow my BlueSky account, Neil Villapiano. You can just look it up. And also follow my TikTok account as well, Neil.Villapiano, where I will post clips from these podcast episodes throughout the year as well. But again, thank you all so very much for checking out this episode, and we will see you in the next episode. Everyone, continue to be the awesome people that you are. And as I always say at the end of every episode, put those horns up, baby, and let's go Devils.